Evening, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us on our second PE and sports Q&A. I'm really delighted to introduce tonight Cuthbert, who you've just seen the absolute best bits from. And she was loving watching that penalty corner. I'm sure we'll have a discussion about that later on. For those who are with us and have logged in, you know that I've already given you a brief highlight and a brief introduction of who Kaz is. But just to run you down again, she's got 163 caps for Scotland in a career that spanned over 10 years with 16 goals. I think a lot of them came in that final year. Everything from, I think, 5 European Championships, is that right? Between A and B division, 2 Commonwealth Games, and then had the honour of being the captain of our country, which is an absolutely amazing achievement. So we're really fortunate to have her here tonight to hear some of her brilliant stories, and we're going to try and pick her brain. She has promised me, or she asked me if it was okay that she would give the answers that the teachers wouldn't want her to give. So I think this might be no holds barred. So just prepare for that. But welcome, Kaz, and thanks so much for taking the time out to join us tonight. Tell us about your background right behind you before we kick off.
Perfectly suited, I thought, for today. So I've got 3 strips behind me. The purple one here, that was from my first Commonwealth Games in 2010 in Delhi. So it's signed by the squad. And then this one here is my most recent Commonwealth Games, Gold Coast 2018. And then this one here is my wonderful husband got me this one and got it framed for me when I achieved my 100th cap. And he also, for my 150th, got me a beautiful actual Scotland cap, you know, the wee hat with 150. So my husband is one of my #1 fans, and so he likes to let me display my strips in the kitchen.
I think you're lucky. I would certainly talk from experience, knowing that as a man, I don't have any say of what goes on the wall in the kitchen. So that's it. So we're going to jump through a bit of a Q&A this evening. So basically, if anyone is here and has a question, fire it in the comments box. We'll be able to pick up. We'll be able to get that on screen, and we can pick Kaz's brain. And let's do that as we go. So if you have a question, don't be afraid. Fire it in straight away. There it is on the screen below us, which is amazing. But we'll just crack into it. So we're going to pick Kaz's brain on a few different areas, a little bit on her, the early years of her hockey career. You know, talk a little bit about her successes, what she learned from them and some of the experiences with them. A little bit about failure and how we deal with failure, because I think that's a massively important topic that we need to start talking about a bit more in sport. We also are going to talk a lot about captaincy and just what that really looks like. And I think I know that you've got some good examples of maybe that not being as glamorous as we all might think it looks like on the outside. And then a little bit about how you balance the ability to kind of have such a long international career with also trying to have a life, to have a job. You're a physiotherapist, obviously, so not like it's an easy job. It's a very hands-on, labour-intensive job. So I think there's lots of lessons that some of the people on here tonight could take from that as well. So we're going to kick off with a bit of a quick fire 5 to get to know you. There's nothing too dodgy. And then we'll end with a quick fire 5 as well to try and sum up. So, who's your inspiration when you got into hockey and you looked to achieve?
The first big role model I had in hockey was Rona Simpson. So she was the coach when I moved to Giffnock to play in the senior kind of hockey. She was a double Olympian and a really outstanding, forceful, committed, motivated player. And so she was probably huge in my big stepping stone from sort of junior hockey to senior hockey.
Amazing. You obviously had 10 years of being an international athlete. It's a long time. It's a long career. I think people think it's all rosy, but actually it's 10 years of full-out commitment. So what was your favourite part of that 10-year process, favourite part of being an international athlete?
Oh, to be fair, I have to say that the best part about being an international athlete is you get to travel the world. I love to see different places, love to go to different countries, to different cultures, all these things. That's probably the biggest perk of being an international athlete. But I have to admit, the best bit for me is that I get to travel with 25 of my pals every time I go. So your team become your friends. I mean, I've got friends for life that I started playing when I was 15 years old, played junior hockey together, and then we've grown through the seniors. So yeah, that's probably the best bit. I get to travel and I get to hang out with my pals quite a lot.
And then on the flip side of that, least favourite part?
Oh, I think just the day-to-day stresses of it at times. It can be quite I don't know if I like to say this, it can be quite a bitchy environment. It can be quite a tough, like not just physically, but mentally tiring, and just that constant, that's a constant. And I suppose that's probably the biggest kind of hardest part of being an international athlete is it doesn't stop. If it stops, then you're not working. You've stopped trying. So.
And then I think we're already starting to get a flavour of where the rest of the conversation will go and some of the stuff we'll talk about. But who in sport do you look up to? If you were to try and pick your favourite sports person, who would that be?
Too many. Like, I think it's really important that you have more than one role model, because different role models bring different like elements. So, you know, I had Rona as a hockey player. I would look at the Dutch players though, and men and women, and go, I want to have skills like them, but I want to have the determination of Rona. I look at a Chris Hoy and go, oh my God, he competed at that high level for so long. How did he do it? I want to have that, you know, in me. I want to have the Serena Williams, you know, attitude of I can do this, that sort of swagger. So I suppose you pick different role models, and different people will influence you through your life. So, and through the career, so different stages. When I was younger, like I say, Rona was huge. I suppose, if I'm being really honest, the most important role model to me who kept me consistent would have been my family. So my mum was huge about it's the same sort of ethics and morals, you know, from when I was 6 to when I'm 30 now. So, do you know, that way she just keeps me level. But there's loads of stars out there that you can look at, and it's great to have them, but make sure they're different. Make sure they bring different aspects that you aspire to be, and not just, you know, tunnel vision.
I think that's an amazing thing that you could learn from anyone, and there is no complete athlete, is there, out there? So It's the case of finding the best bits about others that you can include in yourself. So incredible. And I suppose on that, you'll play against some amazing players, and probably most of the teams in the world. Who is that one player that you played against that was better than the rest?
Oh, wow.
You can't say yourself.
I can't say myself. Do you know what I think? And again, it probably was just at the age I was at. I was must have been early 20s, and we went to play Holland in a 3-test series. And for those who are not hockey geeks, Holland are the cream of the crop when it comes to hockey. They are the best. And I think I must have only been about 23, and Naomi Van Ass was this beautiful, so not only was she great at hockey, she was this beautiful midfielder, and I wasn't even up against her, and I was in the back line defending, and she absolutely annihilated 3 players on her way through midfield, then passed the ball round me and the other defenders like we were cones, and popped it in the goal. And I actually, I was just like, you're brilliant. I'm in the middle of an international game, and I don't think, everyone was just in awe of what she'd just done. She was so quick on the ball, but effortless. So it was just, she was a role model. I don't think I had the leg length to run like she did. But she's one that I really just, sticks in your head as an outstanding player.
And I think just to pick on that, if we bring it into a context of the other sports that some of the people on this chat listening in will play, she's probably the Dan Carter of rugby, the Cristiano Ronaldo of football in terms of her claim, her ability. Yeah,
look, anyone who watched Champions League last night, who watched Mbappe, he just, strides away, moves effortlessly. Anyone who watched the rugby at the weekend, your Welsh boy who, full tilt, kicks it over the full Scotland team, scores. These are the people you're just like, how do you do that?
So, and let's kind of get into it properly in terms of you. So, others won't know, but you have a brother as well, and it's been a pretty successful sporting family. So, well, he's younger than you, is that right?
Sure. No, he's older than me.
So, and he also had a long Scotland career. So, when you were growing up, how was that challenge in the household, and how did you kind of bounce it off each other and keep things going?
To be fair, it was probably brilliant, and I probably again owe my talents a lot to my brother. Those of you who have siblings, especially if you're the younger sibling, so I would go down and my brother would hate it. My mom would make my brother take your little sister down the hockey park, and I used to go to everything with him. We played tennis together, golf, cricket, every sport when we were younger, and William always had to take your little sister with you. And obviously it was a chore for him, whereas I absolutely loved it. I got to hang out with the older boys, and I think that's the other thing is because he was a boy and I was a girl. He hit the ball very hard at me. I don't think he liked me very much, so he used to cream it at me as hard as he could. But I tell you what, it wasn't long before I could hit it just as hard right back at him. And so that kind of competitive edge never disappeared, even when we were older and 20s and late 20s, and we would go down the pitch and just smash balls at each other, because that's what you do. You try and hit your brother with a hockey ball. But he would teach me new skills. I tend to find boys are a little bit better at developing new skills quicker. So aerials came in and drag flicks, and William was always ahead of me with that. But he would always spend time with me, and I'd be like, oh, I want to learn that, and he would teach me the technique of it. And he's great at coaching, and so I learned a whole lot from him. So he probably gave me that step up when we were younger. But yeah, it doesn't mean I still didn't want to hit him with a hockey ball.
And I suppose, sit a bit further back from the speakers. I suppose if we really think about it, if he'd been playing a different sport, do you think you still would have had the same relationship of challenge? Because I know that a lot of people sitting here might have a brother that plays rugby or a sister that plays hockey in a different sport. What do you think the kind of transferable skills are between brother and sister who play different sports that they can help each other and challenge each other?
Yeah, I think sport is sport. I don't think it matters what game you're playing. When I was younger, I used to play badminton to quite a high level, and actually badminton was at one point my main sport up until I was 18, and William was very much hockey focused. I still played the hockey, but it took a sideline. But you could still have the same discussions, about, oh, I played this guy, he really annoyed me, and William would be, oh, I played this guy in the hockey pitch, so you can batter things out. And it was always nice to have a sounding board, because he was just as competitive as I was, and it never really allowed you to have excuses, because he was like, well, just buck up and get on with it, so I think any siblings in sports, you can work off each other. So and it didn't it didn't stop him trying to beat me at badminton, but I smashed him at that. So
and that really helped you in terms of as you started to play at the higher level. I'll turn my mic down. I think we're getting a bit of feedback on me. As you started to play at the higher level, having kind of gone up against your brother, there probably is no bigger challenge than taking on your brother, which is something. So our national five pupils, our head PE told me this earlier, our national five pupils are currently looking at the mental, emotional factors that impact their performance. So how did you learn to manage this stuff? I mean, having gone up against your brother, you were probably well used to it in terms of taking him on, but in terms of managing your own nerves, what kind of techniques did you come up with early in your career? I suppose in that moment when you had Naomi Van Ass running at you, what were the ways you prepared to actually take on these challenges?
I think that's a really, really difficult question to answer, to be specific. Again, I think at different times there's different answers. So, I mean, when I used to play badminton, and I'd play opposition, and they would cheat me, and I would come off the court crying, and that's where my mum probably came in, and she was just like, I'd be like, Mum, they're cheating me out this game here, and she would be like, well, you know what, they'll get their comeuppance, but you stick to what you're good at. And And it was kind of that whole, well, just be better than them, be so much better than them that they can't cheat you out of a game. And it was the same when you went into like school and you did your subjects. You know, I loved maths, I loved PE, I hated English. Anything that I could get a clear answer, I was good at. Anything that was a bit airy-fairy, I was, oh no, I couldn't write essays. But my mum was like, you know, well, don't let that be an excuse though for you not to get into uni. You know, there was you had to just go and be better. And she was real big about working on your weaknesses. It's dead easy to go, oh, well, I've got a great hit at hockey, I'll just hit everything. But what's the point in that? Because when you need to push the ball, you're not going to be good enough. So she was kind of like, be better, just keep being better, and it'll all pan out. You know, she had this real just positive outlook on life that things would pan out. And you know what? I've done pretty well out of it. So to deal with stresses, it is difficult. Exam stress, do you know what? You're never as more stressed in exam as you are turning up for a bleep test for the national team. So it's like that. You'll have done something that's harder than an exam. And as long as you feel you've done preparation to get through it, you'll have done enough, do you know, that way. But don't let there be excuses. Make sure you've done the prep to do it the same way you would do your fitness prep for a fitness test. Those butterflies are still going to churn, but have confidence in what you've done. Have confidence, you know, you can run. I can run a bleep test. Like, I've done it a million times. And I think once you start to get that whole, I've done it before, actually, then it's not so alarming the next time. So when you sit your exams at school, all of a sudden when you go to uni and sit exams, you've done them. It's the same format, it's the same idea. Just make sure you've done your prep and you'll smash them.
I'm really intrigued to talk about your relationship with your mum in that regard, because I know that if you're speaking to a lot of parents at school and kids who are probably on this, they say that, you know, the last person the info needs to come from is mum or dad. And quite often, you know, I get phone calls saying, can you pass on this message? Because they just won't listen to me. But I was quite like you when I was growing up. Actually, I took on board this information from my parents. So did you ever go through a time where you were like, no way, mum, not for me? Or actually, you know, what was it that you saw in your mum that made you think, actually, I really need to listen to this advice? She's my go-to.
Oh, no, I most definitely didn't listen to mum. But absolutely not. When mum was, you know, when I'm coming off the court crying because somebody's cheating me out of a game and she's telling me it will be okay, you'll be better the next time, I'm giving her, mum, do you not understand it? You know, absolutely, I did not listen. However, her messages were consistent. They never changed. And so, I mean, even as I got older, when we went to under 18 Europeans and we'd absolutely smashed it until the last game. I don't know what happened. We drew our last game, and that was we then had to sit and watch another team play. And if this other team won by 3 goals or more, you know, all of a sudden we hadn't won this tournament. And my mum turns to me and she says, it's only a game. It's only a game. I was like, that, are you kidding me on? This is life and death, you know. But and I went absolutely mental at my mum, but that was just her. She just expected it, took it on the chin, and the messages were always the same. You know, I've been through ups and downs of sport, and you know, it was just, well, we move on to the next one, and it's just a game, and you know, and she just kept it very level-headed. But absolutely no, did I listen to her? It's only now that I can reflect back, and I think if you're consistent with those messages, though, the kids, you know, even if they're not pretending like they're listening, it's sinking in, and it has that impact on them, because inside they know the answer. You know, your mum saying, well, you failed that because did you prepare? You know, were you prepped for that? And deep down you can give it all the crying and tears and snorters and giving it, of course I did, but you know whether you did or not. So I think for parents, just keep the message consistent, because it sinks in even if you think they're not listening.
And I think for the kids, appreciate that if they keep telling you something that you don't want to hear, there's a reason for it. And I think that it'll keep coming. So, you know, they kind of do know what they're talking about, Cass, but it takes a little bit of time to recognize that that's actually the case. So and I think that's really valuable advice, and especially for so many here, that there are people around you who support you regardless of how you've achieved or what you've not achieved, or if you've gone well, you've not gone well. So actually use that comfort blanket as much as you can.
And they only want the best for you. Do you know that way? They know, they think you can hit heights, and they will push you until you hit those heights, because they just want the absolute best, and they know you can achieve the best. So they're their biggest challenges. Parents are your biggest challengers out there.
So talking of hitting the heights, I suppose the dream of every hockey player who plays internationally is firstly, can I play the Olympics? Can I play for Great Britain? A bit more challenging when you're here from Scotland, but that's another conversation. But I think as a Scottish player, your biggest thing is, can you get to a Commonwealth Games? And that's the thing that everybody waits that 4-year cycle for. So you've been really fortunate to play in 2 of them. And we heard from Dan Wallace last time when he was on about kind of his experiences at the Commonwealth Games. And he spoke about walking around and, seeing people like Usain Bolt walking around the Olympics was unbelievable for him. Did you ever have that moment? Because if you look back at your career and the standard you played at and the people you played against and the achievements you've had, they're amazing. But did you ever have that like awestruck, starstruck moment in the village when you walked past someone you thought, whoa?
Yeah. Do you know, I think just because I probably, maybe more of the Scottish athletes, I just loved it. I'm sitting down to dinner with, swimmers and cyclists that won medals, what I mean? I'm like, oh my God, that I'm a home bird. I like Scottish sports. So see, these people are the folk you feel like you can connect to or relate to a wee bit. So I actually love just being part of Team Scotland. However, I do remember when we were in India and Team India turned up into the Games village. It was like a huge thing. There was all the staff. So you can imagine, these Games villages are housing thousands of athletes. So you've got all the cleaners, all the catering staff, all the kind of maintenance men. So there's hundreds of staff. And they just downed tools, dropped everything because Team India were arriving. And then there must have been about at least 200 to 300 Indian athletes all turned up, and they were strutting in, and the noise that was made for these athletes, I was just like, that is the coolest thing ever. So I don't think I did have any sort of, we met the Jamaican sprint team. That was pretty cool. However, I didn't get to meet Usain Bolt. He wasn't there when I was there. So, but yeah, the Indian team was cool. Just seeing how the people thought they were amazing. That was cool.
I suppose when you visit Scotland, you spend a lot of time looking at people on the other side of the world, or the sporting greats from America, Jamaica, Australia. Whereas actually, I think one of the coolest things you've said is we have some unbelievable sports people here in this country who do exceptional things. You mentioned Chris Hoy earlier. There is probably no greater Olympian. So it's probably a big message for all of us that we look at what we have here in this tiny little country and just how brilliant we are at sport, rather than always thinking, we could be these people outside. I suppose we want more people to aspire to be Scottish athletes rather than being people from other parts of the world.
Yeah.
So, we've spoken about the cool things. I'm really keen to pick your brains on failure. I know we've had conversations about this before in terms of actually, there's the glamorous side of sport, and there totally is. The moments when you get to achieve, the moments you pick up trophies, the moments you win, the moments you compete. But there's also probably more bad times than there is good times if you reflect back. And I think I see you nodding your head. I think every single athlete who has played at a good level would say the same thing, that the bad times definitely outweigh the good. So, you obviously played in 2 Commonwealth Games, and we'll talk a bit more about the Gold Coast, I'm sure, as we go on. But you missed out on probably the one that you would have definitely wanted to play in terms of Glasgow. When you look back now, how tough was that to not get picked, but then, to have to kind of bottle it all up and go and support your brother and go and support the team?
Yeah, how tough was that? 7 years prior to 2014, I was at the party where we won the bid for 2014. I was part of Glasgow School of Sport, and we were invited along, and it was a big celebration. Glasgow's going to host the games, and for a small sport like hockey, to have such a huge competition in your home, not even just your home country, but my home city.
And your home pitch.
Your home pitch.
Yeah.
That really, that is the epitome of a Commonwealth Games. So it's the biggest competition you can play at for Scotland, and to have it in your home city, I mean, it was tea that I like. That would have been it for me. That would have been the absolute icing on the cake. But again, my mum's little voice comes back and says, "Well, everything happens for a reason," and it just did that year. I picked up an injury very close to selection. It put me out for a 6-week block of time, and by the time I came back, we're now 2 weeks out from selection. And unfortunately, credit to the coaches, it is the most heart-wrenching decision as a coach to tell players whether they're in or out for these huge competitions. And obviously, at that time, the timing wasn't right, and I never made that squad. And I think the hardest thing is my family being quite sporty. So there's me, my brother, and my mum's, hugely sporty as well. You deal with failure, you box it, you pocket it, you put it somewhere else. By that point, my husband and my husband's family, who'd spent hundreds of pounds on tickets for the games, that is what's really heart-wrenching as well. Your friends and family who'd all bought tickets, things like that, to then have to say to them, you feel like you've let them down. You don't mind letting yourself down, but it's when it starts involving other people, it's really, really difficult to manage and take. And so, the Commonwealth Game was a really tough one for me, to the point where, yes, I did go and support the girls. That was, I have to be honest, I went to one game. I was there supporting my brother till the hell. Like, I love my brother, and if I could, I would do that till the cows come home. I was there with my drum. I'll bang it for all the boys' games. I've supported them in any tournaments I can go to. I'm always there. The girls' games, I actually didn't go to them. I couldn't watch them. I didn't watch them on telly. I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to see how they were getting on. Because as a sports person, you have that horrible thing where you're going, if they're not doing well, you're going, well, I could do a better job. And if they're doing well, you're going, I'm missing out on that. So, it's a really difficult one to deal with. And one of my closest friends was in the team, and I wasn't there to support her. And actually, it was only because she asked me if I would come along to the Wales game, to one of the games, to support, that I did. And I came and I banged my drum. But the whole time, you have that same torment of, if they miss an opportunity, you're going, oh, if I'd been there, or if, something doesn't go right, if I'd been there. And so it was a really, really hard one to do. But I suppose I wanted to be there for the girls, but personally, I just couldn't be there for myself. So I did go to the game. I felt like I supported them, and I, as a Scotland team, you never want anyone to do badly. But as an athlete who's competitive, ultimately, you always want to be there. So everyone goes through that mental kind of like, I could do this or I could do that. But the team was picked, and the team that was picked was the best team that was available at the time of selection. So credit to the coaches. It's never easy, but I didn't find it very easy to go and watch or support.
I think there's an amazing message in there, because there'll be people on here listening who have been used to not getting picked when they maybe think they should, and the natural response is to kind of hide away or to not go and not watch. But when you're talking about like real performance behaviors in terms of being the best that you can be, actually forcing yourself to go, you'll probably look back now thinking, I totally did the right thing, even though I didn't want to. And that's probably a massive message across your whole career is, I didn't really want to do that. I didn't want to do that running session. I didn't want to go to the gym, but I did it even when I didn't want to.
Yeah.
So, I mean, one of my different scenario to you'd been to a Commonwealth Games. I hadn't been. I was in the squad. I missed out. I went to watch the guys play against Wales, and that was literally my crowning moment of 2014. Was you 3 rows behind me with your drum? Definitely. I don't think I watched any of the game. It was just like this the whole time, thinking I was going to get hit in the head. But I think there's some really amazing takeaways there for some of the people listening in. It's not all going to be rosy, and there are definitely going to be setbacks, and there's going to be times where it's all going to go wrong and it's going to feel like it's crumbled around you. But it's not the event which breaks you. It's your own response to the event itself. So, there's people here that will definitely want to, you know, compete and achieve. So what would be your kind of advice to prepare someone for what the journey will look like if they really want to achieve on an international scale?
Hard graft. That is what it looks like. You summed it up at the start. For all the highlights, and I'm just putting out there, particularly as a Scottish athlete, for all the highlights of maybe going to these events, but then that's only half of it. Can you win at these events? If you're competing at that level, you're a winner. You want to be a winner. You're not there to make the numbers up. You're there because you want to be the best. But that's the thing. The selection for Commonwealth Games is once every 4 years. A Europeans is once every 2 years. So, and the tournament lasts for 10 days. All right. So 10 days every 4 years, you've got to work your ass off to get there. And so that is, and you'll peak and trough. You cannot perform at your utmost level for 4 years. Like, it's just not going to happen. And for someone who's really looking to make it, you have to be very clever about your planning. Now, whether that's with your coaches, and all I would say is, see if you've got access to coaches, psychologists, nutritionists, sports scientists, all these people. Believe me when I say they've got hell more knowledge than you would have personally. Tap into all of it, because these are the things and the small details that will keep you going. So we have a very, prescribed program of, these are your weights, these are your running. We want to be peaking for June. So in January, we're not looking for you to be, excelling. So, that was quite a prescribed program that you would follow. So you would peak and trough, 1 minute you're playing great, and then a couple of months' time, they don't expect you to be brilliant. But what I would say is, you're only going to get out of that as much as you take from it. So Chris here can prescribe you a program for hockey, and actually your Scottish school championships are in May, and in January you're running doggies and you're knackered and you can't even trap the ball, and you're going, well, my coach is rubbish, he doesn't know what he's doing. Right? You have to have trust in Chris. Your kids are like, I'm not running doggies for Chris.
That's the first time you've ever said that.
You have to have trust in these people that have knowledge, and trust that they are going to prep you for peaking at the right times. And but you have to also put the work in. So when Chris says run 4 doggies, you don't do 2.5 and then coast for the other 1.5. If you're doing 4 doggies, you're running 4 doggies. So it's about hard graft. And as you said, there's far more lows at times than there is highs, but the highs massively outweigh the lows. So, on a scale, this is high and this is low, but there's a lot more of these, and you kind of sit in the middle. So, yeah.
I think probably the way my question's been asked, we've painted a picture of, actually, it's all doom and gloom and it's all really hard. But
it's really not. I love training. I love running.
There's a comment that's come in, which is basically about, how did you and your teammates, let's say on a national level, how did you make training fun? So, whilst it is tough, but actually, what is it about the training that makes it really enjoyable and fun?
So, a couple of things. Like, as a team, it's always, you'll hang with the folk you want to hang with. You'll chat to the people who you have the same chat with, same kind of interests. But also, so on a team front, it's always good to make sure you surround yourself by the people you want to be surrounded by. Don't disrespect any players who you maybe don't have the same interest in, because believe me when I say, they'll come out with some absolute zingers at times, and you're like, oh, good chat. But make sure you do integrate with your teams. Even if you're doing an individual sport, integrate with your coaches and the coaching staff and maybe other players, because that's well, for me, that was really important. I'm a social person. I like to chat, and that made it fun. And have a laugh when you're playing. I had a coach who once said to me, why are you doing it if you're not enjoying it? And that to me really rung out. If you're not striving to be the best, and I'll put in that doggy because I want to do it. I might not enjoy it, but in my head I'm thinking, but I enjoy playing hockey and I want to be good at hockey. So that's why I'm doing it. So on a team front, make sure you have a laugh. Make sure you chat to everyone in your team, and make sure you open up your social bubble. And as an individual, I'm sure I'm speaking to the sort of same sort of people who are probably similar minded. Everything's a competition, at training. Everything's a competition. If we're doing a running test, well, I want to make sure I'm beating, I'm not being at the top, I'm definitely going to beat her, and her. If we're playing a game, oh my goodness, if it's a 4v4 game, I better be on the winning team, right? And that to me is what makes training fun. I always want to be winning or be the best. Now you might lose, and actually you learn to lose and you learn to deal with that. And some of your teammates will make fun of you because they know how over competitive you are. But that's just part of being part of a team. So that's how you make it fun. Make it competitive, and make sure you laugh. Make sure you laugh with your teammates or your coaching staff or whoever you're playing with.
I think that leads us really nicely into the theme of teams and playing within teams, because there are so many different types of individuals who make up a team. So how did you as a captain start to understand how to mold your team to actually be a unit rather than just being individuals? Right, it's a cracking question from Emily, who's one of our under 14 girls players. So, and I know that we've had chats about this before, obviously off air. It's quite a challenging thing, probably even more so in girls sport than it is in boys sport.
Yeah. To be fair, Emily, that's a great question, and one I probably only learned how to maybe manage later on in my career as a hockey player. How do you get your team to work together? Do you know, the biggest thing for me is respect, especially in a team game. Okay, so in a hockey team, we have a training squad of 30 people, but I know only 18 of those people are going to get selected to go to a tournament. And that's what it's about. The tournament is what it's about, because we want to win at the tournament. Now, I might not get on with some of those 18 that have been selected. And actually, some of my pals missed the cut. But that has nothing to do with me, okay? That is a decision that's been made. It's out with my control. And actually, the people that are there are the people that, I ultimately want to win. And so if I don't get on board with them and respect what they bring to our team, so I don't have to like someone to know someone's good at hockey. Okay, so some of our best players might be, characters that I just don't gel with or bond with. We have different views, but I still recognise they're a cracking hockey player. And so I have to respect that, and I have to embrace that. So not ignore them, not shun them out, especially if you're a leader. You don't pick your favourites and stick with your favourites. You have to be inclusive. You have to include everyone, from the quiet one, the mousy one who, again, she might not be the most skilled player in your hockey pitch, but I tell you what, she runs much further than anyone else in your team. And you have to respect that. You need to respect everyone's individual attributes that they'll bring to your team. And if you can do that, and you as a leader respect each person's attributes, that will infiltrate the team a little bit, and you can also help facilitate that. So if you've got vice captains and other people, if you just hear chat, so if Chris starts saying, I can't believe Kaz get picked, she's rubbish, I'd be saying, oh, Chris, Kaz actually brings this, this, and this to the team. So do you know what? When the chips are down and we need somebody to hit the ball, Kaz hits the ball great, so let's see what she'll do. So it's that sort of, you don't have to be horrible about it. You don't have to nitpick and point fingers at people. Never point fingers. It never ends well for anyone. But to get your team working together, there has to be a mutual respect for everyone that's in that team and what they bring to that team, and that's hugely important. There will be elements of a team game where individuals will shine, but again, that only happens probably because there's a lot of workers allowing them to do that. Okay, so it's making sure that you praise the ones who do shine, but you also praise those who are working and grafting to allow that to happen. I remember when I was under 16s and I was a year young, and there was a girl, again, the coaching staff, that it just summed it up to me, because I'm a hard worker. I'm not no Lionel Messi, I'm not going to skin the team. I'm a grafter, and I'll do the simple things well. And I remember there was a video clip, and they showed this midfielder, and at no point during the whole of this clip, when we scored a goal, did this midfielder touch the ball. But what she did was she ran across the pitch and then veered off and ran towards the corner of the pitch. And the coaching staff at no point honed in on us actually scoring a goal and just went, watch what this girl did. And what she did in her run, this most unselfish run, and she ran full tilt, she opened up this huge gap in the pitch. And the other player, this individual player, ran down that huge gap and scored this wonder goal. And everyone's going, wow, that was amazing. Look at that wonder goal. And the coaching staff are the ones who highlighted, yeah, that was great, but look who created that for you. This girl who just went this way. She knew what she was doing. She was trying to create space and she was being a team player. And that they were trying to highlight the unselfishness of team sports. Like you say, individuals can only shine if the whole team are working as a collective. So get your team to work together. You must respect each other and understand what each of you bring to the team as well. Everyone's got something to bring.
I think the big takeaway for me anyway is actually the team is bigger than the individual. So we've probably all been in team capacities, and I know that it happens at school and I know that it happens at all levels, that people get wound up with each other, but why are you there? It's all about the team, which is really important rather than the individual. And I think that's a really good point you've picked out all the way back at under 16s, because I know I get a lot of feedback that says, why did you praise the person who mistrapped the ball or who turned the ball over with a pass, who tried to take someone on? Wow, but they were trying to do the right thing. So it's recognition that actually someone like your story, who really breaks the game and makes an opportunity to score, might not even be involved on the ball. And that's, I think, the power of a team is all the bits that happen to kind of pull it all together. I think that's a really brilliant message. And I suppose it leads me on to a thought about, you made a really clear point about actually there's people you play with who you don't like, and that's just part and parcel of it. And, you mentioned you're probably your closest friend of the team who'd played in Glasgow and you hadn't. And knowing who that is, there probably isn't two more different individuals in terms of the way that they play. So I think we're going to get a good insight here. In the Scotland setup, they do insights profiling. We've had this chat before, haven't we, Kaz, about the type of person you are. Kaz is, as you see on screen, very bubbly, very to the point, doesn't really need to know why, just wants to be told, do it. Whereas her best friend is totally the opposite, wants to know why and the detail behind everything. So how do you manage that? So say you've got a really close friend who you're playing with, and I think that'll be something which is common for a lot of the people listening in, is, how do you take that relationship from off field where you're so close to on field where there might be some conflict?
I think, to be fair, the most important thing there is know your team, so I mean, she won't mind me saying, but so Lloydie is one of my closest friends on a hockey pitch, and like I say, she is chalk and cheese to me. But I know her inside out, and so therefore I know how to maybe get the best out of her. And listen, there was times where she would annoy the hell out of me, so I also know how to put her down. And friends do that. Friends are the worst for it. And there was horrible times where I would shout at her or speak to her in a language that I knew she didn't like, and so therefore, and her head would drop. And in my head, I'm going, well, that's just horrible. Like, why are you doing that? And again, you come back to the team. What's the point in she might be annoying the hell out of me, but she's also my teammate, and I need her to be at her best. So, you learn, like, that's not how you speak to people. And so I would more often than not try and speak to her in a way of positive to try and build her up. But that then goes for everyone in your team. So the more you know about your teammates, the better. Like the quiet wee mousy one, it's hugely important to have a conversation with them. How do you like being spoken to? And you know what is really surprising is some of them will go back, just tell me up front, just tell me straight, whereas you'll be like beating about the bush, going, well, see what you did there, I liked your idea. And they're like that, they're bored listening to you because they're actually like, just tell me, what do you want me to do, And so don't preconceive how you think people are, get to know them, actually get to know them. So the insights thing's a great thing because you do start to pick up traits of your teammates and where they sit on this colour wheel and all this kind of stuff. But it also tells you in the booklet how to speak to Kaz and how not to speak to Kaz. So if Christopher tries to sit me in front of a camera or a video and talk me through the ins and outs of how to turn this camera on, I'm bored, I've switched off. But if he says, push this red button and follow the ball, I'm all over that. So other people, though, want to know about the zoom and the this and the fine tuning and all that jazz, and I just don't. I just don't. But the more you know
that links back to that. I remember a brilliant conversation we had. I think it was when we were playing Canada back in 2019. You said, I want to look at clips. And I thought, oh my goodness me. How do you look at clips for Kaz? You've got to find one and you've got to tell her where you want her to stand. That's it. It's a 30-second piece. Stand here. Okay, writes it down. One line in her notebook. Away she goes, quite happy. Whereas others want 10, 15. Yeah, so I think that's a good point, and it will take you a long time to get to that level where you start to understand people. So, and you'll have been through periods of, I suppose, not being quite sure how to speak to people, or not being quite sure about your ability or your place within the team. So, there's a cracking question coming here about, if you've had any periods of self-doubt in your ability, how actually have you overcome that? And I think that this is a brilliant area, because it's one that people aren't that comfortable or not been that comfortable in the past to speak about, whereas it's such a big part of the game.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, self-doubt creeps in all the time, and it really does for everything. I mean, I go to work sometimes and a patient will come in a problem and I'm like, oh, I just don't know if I know what's going on here. So more often than not, it comes on a hockey pitch, because I know what I'm good at, and it's very much the basics. So to play at a world level when you're competing with the best, you do question, am I good enough to be here? How do you overcome it? Do you know what? Stick to what you're good at and really have belief in it, because there's a lot of chat these days about superpowers. And I do actually, it's a bit cheesy. It's not really my kind of lingo, but know what your superpowers are. So anything from hockey was, right, well, I might not be as skillful as that player over there, but I tell you what, I'm going to hit this ball 9 out of 10 times in that 1 meter channel. That's my strength, and go to your strengths. Know what your weaknesses are, work on them, but back yourself with what you're good at. And it's the same, like when you talk about studying, I knew I was going to smash maths. Make sure you get an A in maths, right? I ended up, I'm ashamed to say it, I got a C in English, but I got an A in my math, an A in my science, because I knew I was smashing it. And did enough to make sure I got my English, I got my subjects I needed to go to university, but I made sure I absolutely smashed out the park what I was good at. So self-doubt is self-inflicted. Okay, so don't let it be self-inflicted. Back yourself, because the biggest thing I say to some of the girls who I see, when the head drops, there's a reason you're here. You've been selected. Somebody's got confidence in you, so you need to have confidence in yourself. If other people are saying, listen, you're good enough, you need to look at yourself and go, yeah, I'm good enough to be here. I'm going to bring my superpowers and I'm going to smash it. And you can go away and work on your other things that you want to be better at, but bring your superpowers. If ever you're in that position where you're thinking, I'm having a rubbish day, go back to the basics of what you're brilliant at.
And I suppose those situations will probably have appeared for you individually from time to time. I'm thinking of, you played India when you were in Delhi, is that right? And you played Australia in the Gold Coast. How do you deal with that before you're playing teams in front of their home crowd, where an Indian hockey crowd is like a football crowd? It's absolutely mental, isn't it? So actually, how do you deal with the pressure of big matches? How did you deal with playing in a Commonwealth Games? What was the things that Kaz did to kind of get her ready?
Do you know what, though? Embrace it, because it's very rare you'll get to play in front of big crowds. So for you guys at school, if you can make a Scottish Cup final, Scottish Schools Cup final, and you've got all those hundreds of people, embrace it. Stand out in the pitch, look at the crowd, listen to the noise, and go, this is why I play. I play not to play on a Saturday morning when it's cold and wet in front of my mum and her dog. I play to play in front of all of these people to show them what I can do. So when we played in the big matches, I would always go out onto the pitch before warm-up would start or before the game. Or at Commonwealth Games, you can't go onto the pitch. So I'd go behind the stands and just look And I would just take it in and be like, yeah, this is why I'm here. I'm here because this is what I want to play in. You know, so embrace the crowds, embrace the noise, embrace the pressure that comes with that. Pressure is not a word I like because I think it's a word used too often. We talk about big matches and things like that. That's great. Yeah, it's a big match, but it's just a match. It's just the same match that you played yesterday or last Saturday or the week before. You know, nothing changes about you. Didn't all of a sudden become rubbish overnight because the match got bigger, or you know, differently. You also didn't all of a sudden become a world-class drag flicker overnight. You know, stick to the basics of what you know you're good at, no matter what the game, and also treat every game the same. So when you're playing, I don't know, some local school on a Saturday morning and you know you're going to beat them, make sure you go out there and you beat them and you do it right and you play to your level. The same way as when you're playing your local rivals. I don't know who your rivals are. Is it Watson's or Fetties or who do you play these days?
All of them. Watson's, Fetties, MES, St George's, the lot.
Make sure that's just as much as the game that you played the other week. You know, you go out there and you go, I'm just going to smash it again. And that's what it's about. See, consistency. That is what I say to a lot of youngsters in my club team and things. You'll get picked for higher teams if you're consistent. If you play one game phenomenally and the next game you're in the gutter, that yo-yo, it doesn't bode well because coaches might be at the wrong game and they might see you when you're at this game. You know, consistency is key. So make sure you attack every game with the same mindset of, I'm just going to get out here and absolutely smash it. So yeah, embrace the pressure of the big games. Take it all in. That's where you want to be.
Totally. I think that's so true. Actually, every game is the same game. It's 11v11. And I think you nailed it. You want to win. Whether it's training, whether it's a game, you want to win. So, did that ever change? Now, I'm thinking of your last tournament, which is Europeans in summer 2019. And I think, I knew, you knew it was going to probably be your last tournament. You were the captain. It was at home. It was in front of a big crowd towards the end. Did you change anything then? Or was it just a case of relaxing and enjoying it? Because I suppose you would maybe agree, you probably played your best hockey at that tournament that you had in probably years gone by.
Yeah. Do you know, something did change in me, and I think it was every game I approached with the attitude of, this is your last game. And you know, at the end of the tournament, I reflect on it and go, man, maybe if I'd had that attitude, I would have been better at more other tournaments. However, I was so mentally done at the end of that tournament. I actually don't know if I could have hit that level, before. So I think that, there was a sort of mental, I try and always approach most games as, this is it. Go out there. If this was your last game you play, how do you play? But I think I felt a little bit of redemption. I missed Glasgow 2014. This was my opportunity. My family were all there. My in-laws brought a bus load up from Prestwick. They were all there watching. And so that to me was, I don't like to say don't let them down, because I hate the word don't, and those are really negative contexts. So it was, show them what you can do. Show them what you've been doing for 10 years and why you've been out every Saturday missing weddings and parties and meals and all sorts. Show them what you can do. And I think that was really, that last tournament, I bust myself. I absolutely bust myself, and I had nothing left to give at the end of it. So I feel like that was it for me, and that's the way I wanted to finish, on an absolute high.
And I suppose lifting a European Championship trophy is probably a good way to do that.
I like
Tilly
gold.
I think we all like gold. Tilly's asked a really good question about before games. So, linked to that last one about pressure and a Commonwealth Games or a European final, or whether it's just, a league game on a Saturday afternoon with your club. What sort of stuff would you do to make sure your team start at the level that you want them to? And then I suppose when you became captain, did that change, or did that actually just make it easier for you?
Do you know, and again, this, I don't know if it changes between boys and girls, this. The best thing you can do to make sure your team start or play well is make sure they're having fun. So we used to, and you know what, you'll get your coaches will tell you what warm up you're doing, but see if you guys have found something that works for you, feed that back and feed that to the coaches and say, yeah, I know your warm up, you know, you're running and all this, but actually, you know, we used to play, the Scotland team played, I don't even know what the name of the game is.
Romy ball.
Romy ball,
Romy
that's
ball.
it. So the Scotland girls used to play Romy ball before every game over the last year that I played in. And Romy ball is you're in two teams with a tennis ball, aggressively smashing it at each other, trying to win points, and you got to keep the ball in the air. And it didn't matter. Nobody was really keeping score, although we all were keeping score. It was more about just having a laugh and having fun. And I've been in different teams, different squads do different things. So the Scotland girls did Romy ball. I've been in district teams where music and singing is a big thing. A lot of girls' teams love a wee sing. Music's quite big, I think, in team sports. I think the boys are the same. I think they tend to have the sound system on before they come out. So all of these things are important, and that's before you've even got out onto the pitch, you know. So make sure your team are having fun, because the biggest thing for me, and I say to my Wildcats girls all the time, is teams that are enjoying themselves and having fun play better, and they most definitely do. So, yeah, that's what I would advise. But don't dictate it on what you think's fun, because other people might have other ideas of what's fun. So ask the team what they want to do.
There's a really good point you made in there, which links to the relationship with the coach, which I think is, I view the coach as part of the team. I think a lot of people view the team and then the coach. We differ on this in a way, but I think, you know, I certainly know when working with you, it was very easy to have an open conversation between player and coach. How did you get to the stage where you developed relationships with your coaches, where you were able to kind of speak truth to power, so to speak? Because I imagine a lot of people sit there thinking, I can't tell the coach the truth, because they eventually they make the decision of whether I play or I don't play. So, you know, how did you do that? Because that's, for me as a coach, amazing to be able to have an open conversation and a two-way thing, almost like a conduit between player and coach and team. So, I mean, how did you get to that stage where you're comfortable enough to do that?
I have to admit, for all I can talk to you, Chris, there's very few times where I probably feel comfortable talking to coaches. And so I think, unfortunately, I'll side with the players here and go, it's players and coach. And as a coach, do you know, I coach my club team and I want to be part of the crew, but there's also part of me that knows as a player, you'll never be part of that crew, because ultimately, like, what happens, you pick the team, you make the decisions, you decide who's hitting at corners, you decide all these little things that are a big deal. You know, they're hugely important to the team and to players. I would say, though, again, it's probably later on. I mean, I'm quite a chatty person anyway, so I like to have a talk. If I can give anyone advice about how to speak to people, is see the difficult stuff that you don't want to talk about. That's the most important stuff to bring up. And it's probably that took me the longest to realise and to figure out. And I tell you what, see, once you bring it up, and because it's such a big thing in your head, see, when you actually have discussed it and spoken about it with your coach, all of a sudden it's really not that big a deal. So it is difficult to speak to coaches. And if you struggle to speak to coaches, use assistant support staff or leadership groups, captains. And if that's not the route, because I tell you what, you'll only get so far if you always go via someone else. It gets to a point where you have to man up, go and speak to someone yourself, because one, the coach will respect you more if you're coming to them rather than them hearing it third party through 4 other people. And two, you then learn how to communicate with a coach. So you know, rather than just go to that person, they'll go and say it again. You'll never learn. And never mind in sport, you'll never learn how do you speak to your boss at work. If you can't speak to your coach in a hockey pitch, when you go to work, how do you speak to your boss? You just, I'll just send him an email. I'll just not bother. You know, if you've got questions, you need to ask those questions. And like I say, the difficult ones that you're building up in your head is, oh my goodness, I can't ask. They're the ones that need to be asked, because otherwise you're just going to eat yourself and you're going to second guess everything, because you don't know the answer because you haven't asked the question. So yes, there's always avenues to get a question to the coach. It might be through leadership, support staff, things like that. But the more you can get over that hurdle and just, go yourself, the better you will be at communicating in life and the better relationship you'll build with a coach. Okay, because instead of going, oh, Chris hasn't asked me to hit at corners today, he now thinks I'm rubbish. Actually, if you say to Chris,
that's because you're on the left slip. You're on the left slip.
Right. Actually, what Chris is thinking was, Kaz, you're brilliant on the left slip. But in my head, I'm going, he thinks I'm rubbish. And that's the kind of worries that sports people have with coaches as a negative. If you don't ask about it, you'll always think it's a negative. But actually, they see you as an asset somewhere else, or they see a positive elsewhere. And all of a sudden you're going, oh, okay. Oh, I just scored a goal from left flip. There we go. I'm amazing there. So ask the question.
And for all the times that feedback will probably be really positive, there will be times when that's negative. So how do you deal with that in your head? How do you turn the negative into a bit of a, okay, here's what I have to work on?
Yeah. Negative feedback's always difficult because nobody wants to hear negative. Chris doesn't even like negative feedback. So all I would say is there'll be times where somebody will say something to you. And again, this is where learning how to speak to people is really important, because I've had coaches who would give you negative feedback quite aggressively. And I really would struggle with that. And if you went aggressive back at them, you've just turned this into now a full-blown argument, right? And nobody's winning anything here. So all I would say is, whenever you get given negative feedback, give yourself a minute. Take it. Give yourself a minute, because, like I say, nobody wants to hear negative stuff. But actually use it and go, right, what are they saying here? Because some people will shout it at you and you're going, why are you shouting at me? And that they're the ones that's very difficult to take. But actually, if you just give yourself a second, there's always reason behind feedback. And it'll just be because somebody's seen something different that you've not seen. So yeah, give yourself a minute. And if you still don't agree with it, that's absolutely fine. Take everybody's feedback, but you don't always have to agree and you don't always have to change. But do reflect on what they're saying, because remember, you've only got one set of eyes. My midfield might be seeing something that I haven't seen, and my forward most definitely seen something different, and Chris on the sideline seen something different. So take that feedback, because you're only one person. And as I said earlier, if it's always about utilising everybody around about you. If you can get as much information, you can then make an informed decision about what's the best route for you. Use video. Video is a total game changer in hockey. Because when I played at school and younger, like, you didn't have video, you just played, and I thought I was brilliant, and the coach was like, you were rubbish today. And so or when the coach is telling you you're rubbish, instead of going home and going, well, I was rubbish today, watch the video. And we're very good as athletes in honing in onto the negative stuff. So I turned over the ball once, but actually I made 5 consecutive brilliant passes before that one turnover. And we'll hone in on that one turnover. Don't beat yourself up about that. Look at your percentages and use the coaches and stuff like that. But yeah, any negative feedback you're not sure about, use tools like video or coaches or other people, and see, ask your teammate, oh, Thingy says I should have played that ball. Do you think that ball was on? And she might go, yeah, it was on. I'm all day. And you're going, oh, right, okay, I didn't see that. So take it, give yourself a minute, try not bite back, because everybody wants to bite back to negative feedback, and take as much from it as you can.
So just probably jumping onto our last couple of questions, because I know it's probably dinner time in the Cuthbert household. One has come in from Pete, one of our boys players, and I think it's a really interesting one, because we spoke about the pinnacle of a Scotland player is going to a Commonwealth Games. So you've been there, and then let's go all the way back to Delhi, Kaz, because I know you scored your first goal in Delhi, wasn't it? It was a penalty against Wales. Is that correct?
Yeah.
You've been there, you've done it. You've almost climbed the mountain. You've played at the highest level you possibly can. That was what?
2010.
So that's 10 years.
A long time ago.
10 years before the end of your career. So how do you actually continue to get yourself up in the morning, to have a full-time job, to study full-time, to be able to be an athlete on the side? And I think for a lot of people, they probably don't realize that being an international hockey player is you fit another full-time job of being a player in around your full-time job. So, how do you keep motivating yourself when you've already reached the heights?
That is good old goal setting. And again, that's a phrase everybody throws out there, and sometimes people fall asleep when you talk about it. But goal setting to me, if you sit into a workshop, is tedious, right? Everybody makes goals every day, right? So today, my goal was get my work done in enough time. I can come on and talk to Chris before this thing happens, right? Every day you should be goal setting, and it happens. You just naturally do it. So on a hockey kind of athlete front, goal setting, the minute you finished a Commonwealth Games in 2010, or you've got Europeans in 2011, now there's maybe 9 months between the tournaments. Well, I'm making sure I'm going there. So that's your long-term goal. But your short-term goals are, I went to that tournament and this girl made me look stupid when I wasn't quick, or I've not developed an overhead yet, or so these are your little goals. These are your medium-term goals. So long-term goals are a year or 9 months or a wee bit further away. And then, right, well, I'm going to go to Europeans next year. I can't go the same player I am now because, well, I already wasn't good enough to compete with Holland or the top teams. I want to be up there. And actually, if I stay where I am, people will overtake me. So you've got to keep moving forward, always keep moving forward. So my medium-term goals are, right, how do I become a better player? So I might become quicker, I might learn an overhead, I might learn a drag flick. Now, I'll not master it in 9 months, but I'll most definitely go give it a shot and see if I can bring it in a little bit. And then your short-term goals are, right, what is in my program this week? I'm on rest and recovery, right? I've got a running session to do. Okay, like I said earlier, you can go and do your running session and you can coast through it. Anyone can coast through running sessions, weight sessions. Or you can go, well, I actually noticed my teammate, she was a little bit quicker than me during that tournament, and I want to be the best. I want to be the quickest. And so actually, I'm going to smash out my running sessions and my weights so that I'm quicker than her. And I've knocked that one off, and then I'll aim for the next one above her. So it's constant goal setting all the time, because as Chris said, for most sports, especially when you're younger, you're juggling school, you're juggling sport, you're juggling your pals, any family commitments, and all this kind of stuff. So you need to make sure that you're setting those goals. So in my 9 months where I'm aiming for Europeans at hockey, I also have second year of university to get through and my exams to pass. So goal setting every day, right? I need to go to uni. That's a goal. I need to go to uni, I need to go to class. Did I do all the assignments and work? Right, when's my next assignment due? It's due in 3 weeks, right? When am I timetable and I'm getting that work done? Your whole life, if you want to be at the top level of any sport or even work, your whole life becomes a timetable, and you run to that timetable, and each minute of the day, not each minute, that's excessive, but each day you've achieved something. You have achieved something on a daily basis, and that might be, like I say, as simple as I got my English homework done, right? You achieved that today, it's ticked off. But your whole life becomes goal setting and planning, and those who are the best at organising and managing that time and ticking off those goals as they come along, they're the ones that will keep moving forward. It's when you get static because, I've missed that and I didn't do that, and now you're backlogging, now you can't hit the next goals because you've missed all these ones. You've got to find that time and really make sure you're progressing. So yeah, that's probably my biggest thing, is keep goal setting.
No, I think it's so true that actually you can always get better tomorrow. You can always do better tomorrow than you did today. And
100%.
if you keep with that mindset, then actually that 4-year cycle, which feels and sounds like a really long time, actually disappears in moments, because you're just living each day as it comes. And I've got one more question, Kaz, and then we'll finish with our wee quick fire 5. And I'm going to bring in one of my colleagues after my question as well. Just ask you a toughie. It's a toughie. No. Captaincy.
Yeah.
An amazing honor, but I think people look at it as a badge and just a really positive thing. How is it really?
So, I kind of feel you brought this up just over recent conversations that we've had.
Maybe.
Yeah, listen, captaincy is the ultimate. And again, if you want to be the best, you want to be the captain, you want to be leading the team. But if you want to be a good leader, and I really hope I was a good leader, you have to accept that as we spoke about earlier with the coach being separate to the players, there will be times where the players will see you separate to their team as well. And I shared an insight with Chris, which he wasn't aware of, but we, as a Scotland team, you think you're quite close knit. You think you're all friends. 18 of us are going to Europeans in 2019, and I, as a captain, have a job to make sure that the reputation of our squad, of our sport, is up here at the highest level. And in doing that, sometimes it means, I have to chin the girls on what you're doing when you say, why are you not wearing the right kit? Why are you posting these things on social media? And, these are the not nice tasks of a captain. And again, it's how you do that. It's trying not to be, I don't want to use the wrong language here, but trying not to be, a horrible person while you're doing it. I know what I wanted to say.
I think we all did.
But ultimately, when I thought I was part of the team, part of the squad, what we found out a few weeks before Europeans, everyone came into the changing rooms having a great laugh. Oh my God, did you see such and such's Instagram? Did you see this? Oh my God, did you see this? And I'm like, no, I didn't. I didn't. Only to find out that my vice captain didn't see it either, because my teammate had blocked us from our social media. And again, listen, everyone has their reasons for doing things. People are different in every squad. So the girl's social media, she obviously thought it's probably best if Kaz doesn't see what I'm doing. And that is on her, and that is her taking responsibility for what she wants to do. But me as a human, that really hurt, and it really hurt my vice captain. And we were really upset because you think, oh, you're part of the team, and then it turns out, nah, people are blocking you, and social media is quite a big thing these days. So these are the lows of being a captain. Sometimes it's lonely. And so if you are a captain, all I would say is do make sure you've got friends round about you, and use your vice captains and your support network, because most of them will be in the same boat as you. But there will be times where you have to even be above that and make the rubbish, hard decisions and, toe in the line. You lead by example. If you want the squad to get out on a Saturday night and be steaming, go and do it. They'll follow you. If you want to be in your bed on a Saturday night because you've got a big game on Sunday, you have to set the example. If half your team go out, that's on them, but you can't do that. If you do that, they'll all follow you. So there's a reason you're at the top there. So what you do, they will follow. Most will, not everyone will, and you can't expect everyone to follow either, because they all live their own lives, and some people might prepare brilliantly if they're out on a Saturday night. So you have to respect that as well. But it's hard and it's quite lonely at times.
I just you shared that story with me last week when we had a conversation, and I hope you don't mind me bringing it up, because I actually think that it is one of the most amazing messages to hear the real truth, that actually it isn't, all singing, all dancing to be a leader when people think that it is. And I think that it is hard, and you have to, said earlier, do the things you perhaps don't want to do or would rather go with the crowd, and you have to go against it. But I also think that it's an amazing lesson for some of the people that hear, and the ability to do it actually exemplifies what a leader is, because I'm not sure that enough people do. So I think for everyone on this call, I've had the honour of coaching Kaz, and she is the most inspirational leader of a group that there is. I have not seen anyone better do it, because she's able to, have fun with people and be one of the girls, but at the same time, she's able to take herself away and recognise that the bigger picture that she spoke about earlier and the goals of the team also fall back on her to try and enforce and to try and uphold. And I think that that's a really tough balance to strike. So I think if any of you here are looking for a role model, then you've got one sat in front of you the last hour who's just given you some incredible insights. And I think that this is my chance to bring in my colleagues. This is our head of girls games, Kaz, who has a question for you. And I hope you've got an answer.
Thanks so much for all your advice tonight, Kaz, and all your pearls of wisdom. It's been amazing just sitting here listening to you. It's been really, really enjoyable. And I'm sure our pupils have thoroughly enjoyed it as well. And we speak to them quite a lot about, Chris has just mentioned their role models and the importance of it. And we're constantly giving them that message and asking them about role models. And I just wondered who your favourite sporting heroes are.
See, they change all the time.
That's okay.
See, at the moment, I kind of touched on it earlier. I love Scottish-based people, so I love an Andy Murray because he fights and he is a true aggressive Scotsman. And when he wants to win, he goes out to win. Chris Hoy is another one who has a legacy that I just think is phenomenal. So these are your kind of Scottish people I always look at and go, these guys are brilliant. Right now, role models just now. I'm a hockey geek, hockey players. For those, there's Rebecca who plays for Argentina, Eva de Good who plays for Holland. See if you watch some of these girls play hockey, they are phenomenal. So I look at them and go, they're the hockey players I want to be. So that's what I would aspire. However, I look at Andy Murray and go, that's the grit and determination I want when I am that hockey player. And then I look at Chris Hoy and go, I'm going to create a legacy. I'm going to hang around for 10 years and have a post box with Kaz on it.
Quite right.
Lots of different people.
Oh, thanks, Kaz.
No bother.
So to finish up, Kaz, I think there's been some brilliant questions, and I think that answer is spot on. I reckon I'd put my mail in the Kaz post box.
I wouldn't respond to it, but
I know, that's so true. Just 5 quick questions to finish off. So a quick short answer to finish us. So a lot of people here, including me, love the High Performance podcast just now. I don't know if you've listened to it just now, but they always ask one question, and it is, what is your one golden rule that you and others around you need to live by in order to achieve?
Oh, I've got 2.
Go on then.
Work harder than anybody else round about you, and no excuses. Stop making excuses, just get it done.
And then, what is the best piece of advice a coach has ever given you?
Oh, I suppose that just always make sure you're enjoying, but also, do you know what? One coach who means a lot to me said to me, never live with regrets. So by that, what he meant was I made mistakes. This was actually my badminton coach. I'd made mistakes, silly mistakes as a kid. And he was like, well, you can rue that all day, but he's like, you've made a mistake, so don't regret what you've done, just learn from your mistakes. So live with no regrets, just learn from your mistakes.
If you were to coach a teenage Kaz, what would you say to her to guide her on the right path?
I don't know. Have more skills, Kaz. Have more skills. Stop hitting everyone and just have more skills. I genuinely learned 3D skills when I was about 27 years old. Like, I could hit, push, sweep, and tackle. I was just your out and out solid defender. I learned 3D skills when I was 27.
My second last question was going to be, what one piece of advice would you finish with? But you've given so many that I'm not going to ask you to pick on one, because I think that's up for the people listening in to take away what's amazing for them. And I suppose my last one before we finish is, hockey's been such an amazing part of your life. What's that next dream within hockey?
What's the what? Sorry.
What's your next dream within hockey? What's the next goal?
So, the next goal for me is, for those who don't know, I'm the club coach at Western Wildcats, and again, we talk about legacy. We are going to have the biggest, the best hockey club in Scotland, and it's coming. If I can get more and more people into hockey at all levels, and all, girls, boys, everybody. I love hockey, and so if I can grow the game, whether it be at club level, at international level, or anywhere that I can help out, that to me is the next thing. The next goal is make hockey Sky Sports. It's coming. Netball leagues on Sky Sports. Come on, hockey, we're gonna get there.
No, Kaz, listen, I think we are totally indebted to you for your time tonight and some of the most amazingly honest and insightful stories that you've been kind enough to tell us, and actually some of the incredible messages that have kind of guided you and have allowed you to achieve so much that I think so many of our pupils will take away. And I think some of the questions that have been asked really show that. So I and we cannot thank you enough for your time for doing that. No one else is here, but a big round of applause from us. And thank you so much.
Thank you very much
for your
having
time.
me. And for the questions. Thank you. It's nice to see there was people there.
And if anybody does have any other questions, do not hesitate to get in touch with me. I'm quite happy to pass any other questions on to Kaz. I'm sure she'll reply. I could put them in her post box.
And if you ever see me, come and say hi. I'm really not that scary. I'm like not your coach.
Totally. So this, I believe, has been recorded, so it'll be available for all the kids on Microsoft Teams if they want to go watch back some of the amazing highlights to actually really take this stuff away. So thank you all for coming and for listening in. And thank you again, Kaz, for an incredible hour and 20 minutes.
Thank you.